1710 Fun in the tunnels. Oh ho, almost got me there. Wow, nice try. You'll get there one day, champ. I believe in you. If you fully believed in yourself, you would have got me there. That's motivation for next time. There's something about messing with these delvers that I just don't seem to get tired of. Look at them dance. Look at them wail in despair as I yoink them up into the air. Gway hey 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 hey. My submarine efforts have been rewarded yet again with another ambush, and I have to say, they really put in some more effort this time. Perhaps the growing number of missing delvers has caused them to grow a little nervous, but they seem to be willing to go a lot further to try and bring me down now. This ambush opened with 2 doom spheres being launched at me. Made of fire, they were like mini suns, absolutely scorching hot temperatures that were singeing my antennae from hundreds of meters away. Taken a little by surprise, I managed to counter with 2 gravity bombs, but they were so weak I had to empower them to make sure they did the job. Starting the fight with 2 massive explosive wars between fire and gravity was a rather spectacular way to go about it. I think the delvers were hoping for a better outcome for their opening salvo, but they still launched out of their hiding places and followed through. Things went downhill for them rather rapidly after that. Oh no, my carapace is damaged, and it's fixed. Dang, look at that. Honestly, with so many delvers attacking me at once, the healing network ramps up very, very quickly. My entire body feels like ice right now, an abundance of regeneration fluid racing through my body. Some of these delvers must be heavy hitters, because they managed to put some damage into me, carving chunks out of my carapace and dents in my legs, but I heal so dang fast it just doesn't matter. Mocking them for it also brings me a deep sense of joy. Next one to attack me gets lifted in the air. There's a brief moment when they all hesitate, then they overcome their fear and continue the assault. I can't actually tell who it was exactly, so I pick out one I think is a likely suspect. Up you go. Yelping with fear and surprise, my victim is lifted up and left hovering in midair, thrashing helplessly. Lifting mages up doesn't do all that much, since they can just keep throwing spells at me, but for combat types, they really struggle when they can't plant their feet. So much speed and power, but not available when their little feet are wiggling in the air. Despite my overwhelming, and ever-increasing regeneration, I'm still doing everything I can to avoid taking severe damage. My antennae buzz constantly and I react faster than I can think, dodging, shifting my position, parrying with my mandibles, processing hundreds of different sensory inputs every second and responding accordingly. It takes a huge amount of mental and physical energy to maintain. Making this enormous body jump and shift is not easy work. My legs and muscles have been empowered through my evolution, so they're strong enough, but it's still a big ask. Luckily my tendons are mutated, otherwise I'd collapse on the ground like a puppet with its strings cut right now. Alright, playtime is over. After pulling together the gravity domain over the course of the fight, I empower and unleash it, watching with satisfaction as it rips through the tunnel, expanding with absurd speed and crushing everything caught within to the ground. Interestingly, I can feel a few pockets of space fighting back against my mana, trying to hold off the overwhelming flood of gravitational energy. Now that there are almost no spells or strikes raining down on me, I'm free to wander over and take a gander at what is going on. Oh ho, another priest. 2 priests. There's some serious anti-magic techniques at play here. 2 small pockets of delvers are still standing as the priests, with the help of some mages, manage to prevent the domain from fully enveloping them. Which is impressive and all, but it's clearly placing a massive strain on them. They're sweating buckets and physically shaking with the effort, which means they don't really have the energy left to actually fight back against me as I approach them. You might as well lie down, I advise them. Resistance is only going to make her angry. Refusing to reply, the small group of priests and mages holds on stubbornly, unwilling to give anything away to a monster such as myself. Well, that suits me just fine. Alright, Chrysalis, all yours. If they don't want to deal with me, they can deal with the darkness instead. She's been tagging along with me on my latest forays out into the tunnels. With a little help from the Nameless, she's been able to sniff out and transport away any delvers that I capture, smoothing out the whole process. In only a few moments, the shadows consume every member of this group, and then I'm moving on. Legs up, gravity well activated, submarine mode engaged. I've been spending most of every day out here doing this, and for some reason the delvers just keep on coming. That last group was the 5th I've defeated, and the fights honestly haven't been close. Truly, they have been blinded by greed. It's almost disappointing, but then again, that was my plan. Cruising around a bit longer, Something catches my eye as I round a corner in the tunnel. Coming to a junction that appears to split in 3 different directions, I look toward the wall and see neat rows of tents and stacked boxes. The Delver camp. We've pushed out this far already. Or maybe they were just set up much closer to the nest than I thought they were. Checking my tunnel map, they are surprisingly close to what could reasonably be called the outer edges of the nest. I suppose the colony acting so timid emboldened them to the degree they felt safe being here. Foolish notion. From the looks of things, they abandoned it rather recently. Perhaps they were able to sense me fighting that last group and made a run for it. Which means there's currently a whole bunch of Delvers running through the tunnels trying to get back to Green Mountain. Well now, the chase is on. Chapter 1711 Rundown. The Delver economy is an interesting case study in and of itself, since there are so many possible revenue streams and an inexhaustible demand for their services. To start with, cores. Cores are, in many ways, the item more than any other that makes Pengara turn. Needed for any and all enchanted items, they are a fundamental fact of life for nearly every person who lives in the dungeon. Used to make light, heating, cooling, cooking, freezing food, reinforcing walls and ceilings, cycling air, waste disposal, water creation and purification to assist the growth of crops and livestock. Everything. Cores used for this sort of long-term enchanting tend to degrade over time as well. One can't power their oven with the same core for 50 years, so they are combined with other old cores in order to prolong their life, cycling cores out of the market at a steady rate. Then there's the demand for higher-end cores for combat and defense purposes. Needless to say, this is inexhaustible. There is always more need for high-end cores for armor, weapons, walls, gates, communication arrays, enchanted machines of war and pets. And this was before the colony's insatiable hunger for cores drove up prices. To meet this demand, Delvers are well paid and well regarded. Excerpt from Dungeonomics, by Merchant. I don't like this, Frederick muttered. It's too quiet. Just shut up and keep running, Seamus growled, Elsie nodding along as she ran behind him. I probably shouldn't be thinking this, but I'm kind of glad those morons tried to jump the thing. We may not have had any warning otherwise, Frederick said, maintaining his steady speed. It had been a long time since he'd been forced to run through the dungeon, fleeing for his life. As a manager for the Union, he'd spent most of the last 10 years in an office or in meetings. Always more meetings. He'd always said he didn't miss going delving, but with his heart racing and adrenaline flooding his system, he could at least admit to himself that it felt invigorating. Too long behind a desk had made him rusty, his senses dull. Right now, he felt more alive than he had in years. But also, closer to death than he had been in years. This is why I hate intelligent monsters, he complained aloud. It isn't fair that something can be that strong and be this good at concealing its presence. We didn't have a whiff of it until it started fighting not 2 kilometers away. I told you, Seamus said, face tense. I warned everyone it didn't need to walk on the ground and could conceal its mana incredibly well. I know, damn it. No need to keep banging on about it. The story has been taken without consent. If you see it on Amazon, report the incident. There was a certain art to traveling through the dungeon at speed. It wasn't helpful to move too quickly, as that would attract attention from monsters who loved nothing more than to chase fleeing prey. Moving too slowly was obviously unhelpful, so a happy medium had to be found where ground was covered at a good pace but monsters wouldn't chase after you like excited golden retrievers. Right now the Delvers were pushing right up against the maximum safe speed and perhaps even a little past it. Their numbers were helping to dissuade a few of the more eager monsters, but eventually something was going to give chase. As long as it wasn't the ant, things would be fine. Oh no, Frederick groaned. What now? Seamus snapped. I just jinxed us, Frederick replied. Shut up with your superstitions, Seamus hissed. Focus on the damn tunnel. He was especially frustrated at the moment. After receiving a payday beyond their wildest dreams, he and Elsie had been agitating to rotate back to the Green Mountain for days, only to be delayed time and time again since other Delvers in the camp kept disappearing into thin air. Tempers on the verge of snapping entirely, the two had been discussing the feasibility of making the trip on their own when this disaster happened. Despite what they'd been able to earn from their first meeting with the ant, neither were in any particular hurry for a repeat visit. Nobody on Pengara was more superstitious than Delvers in the dungeon. The Union manager did as suggested and focused. There were plenty of monsters about in the tunnel, but the vanguard was taking care of the most aggressive ones in a neat and efficient fashion, so the rest of them didn't need to slow down at all. Staying vigilant was always necessary, of course. At any moment they could be snatched up by a vine, or a beast could swoop down from above, fancying its chance to grab a cheeky meal. Even though he knew he should focus his attention ahead, he couldn't help but glance over his shoulder, just to reassure himself. What he saw froze the blood in his veins. Gliding like an airship, utterly silent, was one of the largest monsters he had ever seen in his life, just drifting through air, as if mocking everyone else for being bound to the ground. He saw it, and in that instant, he was certain it knew he had seen it as well. In that moment, it began to speed up. Contact, Frederick yelled, voice booming through the tunnel. On hour 6, do not attempt to engage. Run, run, run. Taking his own advice, he dashed, launching himself forward with all of the strength in his body. He did not want to be caught by that thing. Showing themselves to be the thorough professionals they were, the Delvers launched into action, accelerating rapidly until they were moving as fast as they possibly could. No doubt some monsters would leap up and make chase, but what did that matter? If anything, those creatures would only help delay the ant by getting in its way. If Frederick needed any additional reason to be afraid, he found it in the faces of Seamus and Elsie. The two Delvers were as pale as sheets, and they dashed with more urgency than anyone else, pushing their bodies to the breaking point, trying to move just a little bit faster. But, against a Tier 8 mythic monster, he should have known it would be useless. When he hazarded a glance backwards, he saw the ant had landed and was now running on all 6 legs. A moment of hesitation, a slight beat as it tensed its legs, then boom, it was right there amongst them, as if it had crossed the intervening space in less than the blink of an eye. An overwhelming mind crushed through Frederick's defenses and latched onto him and the others as they all staggered in shock. Leaving so soon?